Impaired. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd ask for a moment of silent reflection, please. Move on to the agenda approval. Any additions or subtractions from the agenda?
I have nothing.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Second.
Move motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Department head statements. We'll start with Denica.
The town of Lewiston for the past several years has had a contract with Auctions International to we put a lot of items out for auction, and it needs to be renewed, so I just asked for town board approval and then to have the supervisor sign it.
And we're happy with Auctions International overall, I think, yeah.
No different than last time. Move for approval and direct the supervisor to sign said agreement. Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
On a yearly basis, we renew our contract with SPCA for our dog control for the town of Lewiston. I received a copy, I did forward a copy to Tom for him to review. We've had an opportunity to look at it. I'm looking for town board approval and then to authorize the supervisor to sign it.
There's no changes and the price is the same.
No change, the price is the same. And
Move
good
for
service.
approval as presented and direct the supervisor to sign said agreement.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. That's it? Jackie, you're on the agenda. Bill Conrad, anything, Deputy Supervisor?
I do not.
Okay. Dan Zano, nothing? Dave Train, anything?
Yes, I'd like the board to approve, we sat and talked earlier today about my budget, about hiring another mechanic. The board approval for me to go ahead with this,
Okay.
put out for applications and we'll interview, start the process, hire after January 1st.
And I know we talked with Jackie.
All the numbers, we've gone through,
Yeah.
costs and stuff like this, we feel it'll be as cost savings. I have an opening for a labor's position, we're gonna not fill that, we'll fill it with the mechanic, and then we'll, take funds from the department.
We'll allocate
Allocate
the
the-
cost of the mechanic with other departments who will
To
use the
offset-
service
yeah, to offset the cost
for their
of the
vehicles.
position.
I move to approve the hiring of a mechanic for the highway department through Supervisor Dave Train.
Okay, with a motion and a second.
Wait.
Hold on one second, let me get the word.
The first thing you have to do is create a position.
Okay.
So you would create a mechanic's position. That
Okay.
would be one resolution.
I move that we create a position for a mechanic in the highway department.
Okay, we have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And then you can authorize Dave to go through the process of, I don't know if he has to post it within the unit or whatever he has to do to get that filled.
Okay.
I make the motion that Dave Train begins, that we approve Dave Train beginning the process of hiring a mechanic for the highway department.
With a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it?
Other than the parking lot will be finished within the next couple of
Looks
days.
great. Yeah.
And we're on maintenance part of it, just cleaning up and planting grass seed and putting mulch in and beautifying town hall.
Good.
Thank you. I appreciate it, it looks great.
Looks really nice.
Thank you.
Mike Dashinell, anything?
Yes, just the ice rink update, we talked about at the budget meeting today. The suggestion was that we should mothball for this year. With the issues with COVID, not having the revenue, and as you're all aware, we did get our final check from the insurance company for last year's losses that really didn't cover our total loss. So basically, what we're looking at this year and for the future of the ice rink is we're going to have to now fund this, whether it's coming from raising our prices for skating or sponsorships, whatever it is. We have a lot more to cover. We generally operate that the ice rink at a deficit. So, our suggestion today, we talked about as a group, was basically mothball this year, try to, have a plan in place for next year.
What do you suspect the amount that you're gonna need to raise is?
Total cost operation per year, I think, for the ice rink, we would have to modify this year, which is, there's a couple different variables there. The first one is, when the village removed, the bleachers, they kind of dug out a significant portion of it, as well as our concrete, which we use as a level. So we'd be looking at bringing in sand again. And sorry, all of that's gonna raise our cost for construction, raise our cost for, restoration at the end of the year, and it's gonna be a lot of sand. So that raises the frustration with the village, because now they look out and they see a sand pit instead of grass in the spring. The other thing that we talked about is, if you ever been to the ice rink, everybody here has, I'm sorry, but, that tent, the warming tent, is sealed, completely sealed. Air comes from the outside in when we heat it up. That's not a real good atmosphere for our current situation with COVID, okay? So there's no way for us to get air to flow through there without freezing up the roof and risking a roof collapse. So we would be looking at running out an operation without the tent, which is our big moneymaker. So you wipe out a huge portion of that revenue. Even if you found a way to rent skates or whatever somewhere, you're taking a significant risk this year. Again, without being able to open up that tent, that's our main revenue maker.
I was more looking for 2021. How much do you think an annual operating expense would be?
I can tell you the deficit that we usually have is somewhere around between $10,000 and $15,000.
And that's when we had money in the account. I think we determined it was gonna be between $25,000 and $35,000 to run the ice rink.
Without revenue, more, the operating costs are more.
No, he's talking about for next year, if it was exactly the same.
Yep.
How much it would cost, but with the revenue and everything, I think we figured it out to be about $35,000. That's if everything went perfect with weather and everything kind of, it's a pretty safe range. And with the COVID and everything, I mean, we hate to do it. I mean, we've offered no other programs all summer long. I just don't see how we continue and offer the ice rink.
Agreed.
Yeah, so, I guess should we make a motion to table, or to, not have the ice rink this year, or?
Do we
We need a motion for that, Brian, or we just announce that
It's just part of this program, it won't be.
Yeah.
You already did a motion to suspend all the recreation programs,
Right.
so it probably goes along with that.
So we'll just make an official announcement that there'll be no ice rink in 2020. Okay, thanks.
Just we're looking at 2021 too. The operation there is really going to be dependent on what the village does with that stage. All of our electric goes to that stage. That's a huge chunk of money if we have to move that.
Yeah.
Okay?
Thanks.
That's all.
Okay, thanks. And Bob Lanning, you're on the agenda. Okay. Abstract approval. John Jacoby.
I move to approve the regular abstract of claims number 20-00979 to 20-01099 and recommend payment in the amount of $192,128.14 plus a post audit of $6,507.58.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Approval of the minutes for the 9/28 regular town board meeting.
Move for approval as printed.
A motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
What abstention?
And one abstention. Sewer refunds.
We've had 3 requests for sewer refunds. Mr. Ritter taking a look at this, and he says that all 3 meet the town policy on such refunds. And I make the motion that we approve a refund of $83.66 for 787 Raymond for the Quarantillo family, the amount of $68.87 for 4795 Creek Road for the Demunda family, and $40.99 for 5882 Hoover Road for the Byer family. It is noted here that there was a second filling that needed to take place at the Hoover Road address, but Mr. Ritter thought that only the first refilling was appropriate given our policy, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Fire company roster addition and deletion. Please be advised that the following individuals are no longer members of the Upper Mountain Fire Company of Lewiston, New York. Sean Kraft from 1204 Roselle Avenue and Jordan Collins from 1102 James Avenue. Please delete them from our membership rolls effective this date.
So moved.
We have a motion, second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Please add the following individual to our rolls as a new member of the Upper Mountain Fire Company of Lewiston, New York, effective this date. William Jusky, 864 James Drive, Lewiston, New York.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Is that spelled right?
It should be Justic, shouldn't
I
it?
believe so.
I believe that's William Justic. So, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, we got one more, I'm sorry. Please be advised that the following individual is no longer a member of the Upper Mountain Fire Company of Lewiston, New York. Kevin Wilson of 1239 Norwood Avenue. Please delete them from our membership rolls effective this date.
So moved.
Second.
With motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? What I don't have here is the fire district contract.
I don't either.
Was there a copy of that?
So is that for your fire protection contract?
Yes. So
With
what
5 companies?
Yeah, so what happened is, and Tom looked at it, they provided a letter and signed it, that, due to COVID, that we were gonna continue for on a 1-year contract with no increase, be the same contract as previously, and, Tom gave us the go-ahead to approve the fire contract.
It requires a public hearing.
Oh, okay.
So oftentimes, you'll do it in conjunction with your budget hearing.
Okay,
And then Donna could, in the public hearing notice that she does for the budget, just include another line saying a separate public hearing will be held to approve fire protection contracts with the following fire companies at the following amounts.
okay. What's the date, Jackie, of our final budget approval?
The fifth, November fifth.
Is that at a regular board
It's a
meeting?
public hearing is there, for the budget is November fifth.
When do we approve the
The
budget?
final budget,
Yeah.
November ninth.
So we,
Yes,
so we should do it November 9th, when we approve our final budget?
When's the public hearing on the preliminary budget?
the fifth.
That's when I would do it. I'd schedule a public hearing for the 5th at the same time as you're doing your preliminary budget. And
Okay.
then you can vote to approve it whenever you approve the
The
budget.
budget,
I
okay.
second that.
Okay. Did you make a?
No,
Al
Al
made
made
the
the
motion. Al
motion.
made the motion? Okay, what time was that at?
6.
6 PM. So we have a motion and a second. Any questions?
This is just a standard contract.
Right.
It's actually identical to last year.
Right, yep. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Riverfront Park, everybody has, or we got at the last, board meeting, a proposal for engineering services. I would like to make a motion to approve, the engineering proposal presented by GHD moving forward, on our Lower River Road Park.
Second.
Motion is second, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Also, on the wall there, we have a general concept, plan, which is pretty much the final plan that GHD will be working on for our next board meeting. We don't need to approve the general concept plan, correct? I mean,
I think I would say that, the board is approving this concept, and that's what you're gonna give to your engineer to turn into a plan, a design plan.
okay. So I'll make the motion to approve the general concept plan presented, over on the wall there that GHD actually did the design on.
I'll second that with discussion.
Okay.
That's pretty much the final,
Yes.
yeah. And that's based on the meeting that we had at the senior center with actually a pretty substantial amount of public input on it.
So what we had is we had a meeting at the senior center, and then the Parks and Recreation Committee sat down and they made a recommendation of some more parking. Well, we didn't want to put a ton of pavement down below the hill.
Right.
So what we did is we put in an extra, and it's in the darker color, of parallel parking on the side there. I've still reached out to the Tennessee Gas Line for potentially parking on their property.
Yeah.
You know, that's gonna take a little bit more, but, that could be, added eventually. But we're parking up by the building, and then parking across the street if there was something with some overflow. So, but we have handicap parking down below, so that was, you know, presented to the Parks and Recreation, and that was really their only concern. We wanted to try and keep it as simple as possible, so.
So this that we vote on tonight authorizes, Bob to move forward with a final plan.
Right, correct. Hey, Mike, any questions? Okay,
No, that's about it.
okay. So any more questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Thank you very much. Solar law, Brian Seaman.
Okay, so this has been in the works. It was, I think, slowed up a bit by what happened with the COVID and the shutdowns, but the board members do have a draft of some amendments to this solar law to take a look at. This was done, as I understand it, through some, sit downs and some conversations with the board and with others. And the revisions that are being suggested are, just some cleanup, there's some definition language, but then there is some changes to some of the setbacks. There's some increasing and beefing up the regulations with regard to the screening and the vegetation that's required around the solar installments. There's a requirement that the developer bring in and show you plans as to how this greenery is supposed to grow up over the years, because, on day one, they're not gonna be full grown, obviously, whatever bushes get planted. And then there's also a requirement in there to use some native types of plants, and that's been highly recommended to promote pollinators, bees, wildlife, things like that. And then there's just some things in there that have to do with the yearly inspections and things like that, and also some limits on where any type of batteries could be placed. That they're only going to be allowed in industrial zones, at least according to this draft, not in the rural residential areas.
Okay.
So you have those things in front of you. This will be a type 1 seeker action, which means that we'll have to do a coordinated review. We'll have to send out the notices, get input from the different agencies, and then go from there. So what I'm proposing that we do is consider that, but we can't act on that, and with the timelines the way they are and the time that it takes to do the seeker process, our moratorium will have expired. So I'm suggesting that we do a very brief 2-month extension of that moratorium to give us the time to do the seeker review, final review of the local law, and then act on that at a future date. So I have circulated to everybody a proposed local law extending the moratorium an additional 2 months. So what we would do is tonight we'd introduce this local law extending the moratorium for additional 2 months. We would schedule a public hearing for that, enact that, and then by the time that's enacted, we'll have introduced this other law and started the secret process. That's kind of the game plan if everybody thinks it's good.
So the only thing we need to do tonight is schedule a public hearing introduce the local law and then schedule a public hearing.
Introduce the local law extending the moratorium.
Right.
Yes. So
Okay.
one person would introduce that local law, and then you could schedule the public hearing, giving yourself enough time to get the notice in the paper.
I make the motion that we schedule a public hearing to extend the moratorium for 2 additional months so that we can work on our revised solar law,
Yeah.
and that'll give us time to do it.
All right, so John will have introduced the local law and made a motion to schedule the public hearing. And Donna, you just gotta give yourself enough time for the notice.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We were gonna try and shoot for our next meeting on the 26th. That gives us enough time.
I believe local law is 10 days.
It's 5 days unless it's a zoning law, so this should be, this should be okay. 5 days.
PM?
Put it on you could put it on the night of the preliminary hearing, because you're already having public hearings that night. Do it then.
Cause isn't the solar law part of the zoning law?
Yeah, I guess there's an argument could be made.
Well, I don't wanna argue.
No. It's a moratorium.
I'm just saying, okay.
Give
So
yourself 10 days.
is the public hearing gonna be on this?
Just the moratorium.
Not on the local law?
Correct, it'll just be on the
Okay.
moratorium.
Okay.
Which is a local
It
law.
is a
Which is a local law, but I mean,
Right.
changing the code, okay.
No, that
Alright.
one will require
Okay.
it will require 10 days in a type 1 secret review.
Alright, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so 5 days, yes. So the 26th should be fine.
Okay. So we need a motion,
We did it?
You got the
You
motion?
did.
we did a motion, okay, for the 26th at 6 PM. We have a motion, there is a second?
Yes.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Okay, and then everyone get back to Tom as soon as you can, if you like or don't like the suggestions here, if you think something else needs to go in there.
Do
So
we need-
then that law can be introduced at the next hearing.
Okay, so we're not doing anything other than, everybody's got a copy, they can look it over.
Right, it'll be,
Okay.
we'll put that into, when everybody's saying, yes, this is what I want, we'll put it into the proper format and introduce it and schedule that for a public hearing and start the secret review.
Okay, Bob, you had a question?
Yeah, I just wanna make sure, when do we start the secret review? In 2 months?
No, we wanna start this would be the game plan is, everyone look at this law. The next meeting, the next board meeting, if everybody's happy, let Tom know in the next few days, yes, I'm happy, or no, I'm not. He'll have it in a format that it can be introduced at the next meeting, which
That's
will
when
be
we
2
start.
weeks from now.
Then we start, gotcha.
And that's the date, and then,
We'll go.
GHD can start to circulate the coordinated review forms.
Okay.
Thank you.
So
Excellent.
we have two things going on basically at the same time.
Right. And basically, I've worked with Tom Seaman and Brian stepped in and he's helped a lot. The reason why we had to extend the moratorium is because we're restricting the batteries. So we're changing it, that's the main, so that's the one reason we have to extend this moratorium for 2 months. We didn't wanna do it, but, the timeframe didn't work out, and we wanna protect what we want our solar law to be. So, it was.
Well, a big reason for this too was the COVID hitting.
Well,
I know it sounds unrelated, but we were sort of in limbo here, how we're gonna hold our meetings, we're having Zoom meetings,
Mhm.
and, the solar law kind of got put on the back burner.
Okay, thank
We
you.
looked at this for,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
And that was, the original was to see, what it looked like 6 months. We got to see what it looks like a year out, and we're definitely not satisfied with the screen.
yes, you're right.
So,
Could someone just send me that as,
yep,
to the planning board?
yep. Do you wanna pass it out tonight? Here,
No.
here, you can take here, come on. If you wanna make copies and give it to everybody to look at, any suggestions would be fine. 'Cause I printed it off an email, so I printed it on one. Yep. Clean Energy Communities, Bill Guyton.
About a week and a half ago, we met with Jason Kulazowski, who I was just referring to as Jason K. And in regards to some grants for the senior center, and between he and Connie Miner, our grants person, they determined that we do not qualify for any grants for the doors and windows at the senior center at this time. Jason also referred to the clean energy policies where we have tried to obtain certain success stories, and so far we're just at the bronze level, which if it can be properly delineated, we can achieve that classification, which will help us out for grants in the future. It is beneficial to prove yourself as a town willing to get involved and participate in the climate smart communities. So it was a good meeting, and we're moving forward. He did give us a presentation about what are some of the other things towns can do, and some of them are very much heavy lifting, would be big projects for the town to take on, but we could possibly be doing something with converting energy in our own buildings. So time will tell.
Okay, trick or treat hours. We need to establish trick or treat hours for Halloween. Donna, we usually do 4 to 7,
Yes,
okay, on Halloween night,
31st.
the 31st.
And am I correct that the governor is leaving this up to local communities?
Yes, he's staying out of this one. So I look for a proposal for Halloween, 10/31, 4 to 7 p.m.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Budget revisions, Jackie, no.
You all received 3 budget revision requests in your packet.
Move to approve the 3 budget requests as printed and presented by Jackie on October 15th, 2020. Actually, they came a little earlier, didn't they?
Yes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Also, I don't have it on the agenda, but we have 2 new logos for the town that Mrs. Maggard provided. This one here, Lewiston's been reduced. Okay. So peruse them and we'll have to make a decision. We don't have to make a decision tonight, but make a decision soon on what direction we want to go. This is what we want to approve, which one. So, we're going to go to executive session, and we're not going to take any action after executive session. So we'll go to resident statements and then upcoming boards and commissions before we go to executive session. So, any resident statements, Mrs. Maggard?
Oh, yes.
Oh, I didn't have it.
I have that.
Okay, hold on one second. So, go ahead.
I'll just make it.
Pardon?
I'll make the motion.
Yeah,
Okay.
And there's an opening, current opening on the board?
yes, there is. Because in the old law, it was 7 members. On the new revised one, that has not been passed yet, it's 5 members. So we're lacking 1 member now.
Oftentimes hard to get a quorum, so we really need an additional person. I'd like to make the motion, here's a person, it's Louise Wasco, and she lives in the town, and she has past experience with the Village Historical Association, and she's been highly recommended by Harry Wright, and he seems to know a lot about it. So I make the motion that we appoint Louise Wasco to the Historic Preservation Committee.
Second.
Second.
Just a tad of clarification. Do we have a 5-member board or a 7-member board?
7,
We have a 7. Okay.
Yes.
Now full.
yes.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Yeah, to explain that further, we have a couple of people who are older and have some health problems, and frequently we have trouble getting a quorum, basically. So, it's not like we're packing in 7, 8, 9 people in here. It's a good move to do this.
Okay. So resident statements, do we have anybody who would like to speak?
You were talking about the seal a few minutes ago.
Yes.
I've had 2 people that have talked about the seal with the Lewiston in the middle that they liked. But I had 3 people that just liked the round one. So that's all I've gotten so far.
Okay, thank you very much. So upcoming board commission meetings, regular town board meeting is on October 26th at 6 p.m. And that's, the planning board meeting is actually following this meeting at 7 p.m. And I think that's it for the month, correct? Okay.
So Louise, we have a meeting Tuesday?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, Historical Preservation at 6 o'clock here on Tuesday. I don't know what the date is.
Okay, so I ask for a motion to move to executive session for attorney consultation.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor? Thank you, everybody, for coming. You don't need to, you don't need to come. It's outside of that.